In this episode of Art Moves, we showcase a talented mid-career artist who, after a long road, is finally coming into his own. We learn about the importance of proper framing of art. We visit the studio of a promising young art student well on his way to success. We've got a lot to show you, so enjoy. And for our Artist Spotlight segment, we have Harold Smith. Welcome, Harold.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're so happy to have you here. And Dwight and I have admired your work for quite some time, and I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got started in the art world.
I've always liked to paint, draw. In fact, I still have some paintings, drawings I did when I was around 5 or 6 years old, in the late 1960s. I just always did it. And then in the late 1990s, my father asked, he had Alzheimer's at the time, and he asked me one time just out of the blue, why don't you paint anymore, draw anymore? So I started doing it again seriously and putting more into it, and then reached out to exhibit at the public library, and that's how I got started there.
Where did it go from there? I
exhibited at the public library 2 or 3 times. Then I think my first exhibit outside of Kansas City was at Montanaro Gallery in Newport, Rhode Island. I think that was in 2006. And then just did a lot of the local places, coffee shops, restaurants.
And then what were you doing to support yourself during that time if your art wasn't really fully financially supporting you?
Oh yeah, I taught school. I taught school for a total of 36 years. I retired in December of 2021. It was in 2011. I had a solo exhibition at the American Jazz Museum, curated by Sonny Ruffin, and it paired my work with Glenn North's poetry. Alice Thorson reviewed it in the Kansas City Star.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of local attention, especially those who like my paintings relating to jazz.
Yeah.
What I like about how you've embedded in here, and specifically in this piece, you have these collage pieces that give folks reference to the context of the image, like free jazz. You got a lot of jazz references, but you also have, these comic book pop references. Tell us about the comic book references in your piece.
Well, in this particular piece, I have references from the Black Panther comic book, but I also have Louis Armstrong, Charlie Parker, Charles Mingus, because, at one point, jazz musicians were like superheroes.
Oh, absolutely.
In the Black community. You're talking about a time where I remember somebody...
So they were traveling, going places, yeah.
Yeah, well, somebody explained to me there was a time where for a black man, there were 2 places where you were not a boy. That was church, and that was it at the club.
Wow.
And that's where you would go in and you would be called by your name, you brother this, deacon that, or you're a musician. These guys wore suits, and they traveled, and they did their own thing. And were able to make a living doing it at a time in which... And they also embedded a lot of messages of empowerment in their music, the same way that the Black Panther comic book series has embedded messages of empowerment in the comic book itself.
Embedded code. I see you, brother. I see you. Okay, so let's take a walk on into your studio and let's show the crowd, let's show everybody where you actually do this, where you make the work. And have you had a chance to meet other artists in the studio? Sweet, what's that like?
That's fun. Everybody here's great people. Look out for each other. Had one of the artists upstairs, JT Daniel, needed some plywood from Home Depot. He went and got it for me on his truck. So it's a great community of people to work with.
Okay, Harold, so we got you in your studio number 5 at Studios Inc. What has been the biggest benefit of you working here? I mean, I see that your scale is, you were always pretty big with your scale, but now you've really taken on some undertakings with when it comes to scaling up your works.
Prior to this, I was working in my house.
What I noticed immediately when you got here, things got really bright. When you got the Studios Inc., we had the pieces, that have been born. After that, you just hit this intensity. The color frequency went up because of this piece here, you've got the colors are popping. You got the pinks, the teals, the hair. I love the hair in this piece. Harold, you took it to a whole different level. Tell us about the brightness that's coming out in these pieces.
I really hadn't noticed that myself, but now that you pointed out, I do think some things have changed just since I'm retired, entering a new phase of life, and just, kind of really feel like I'm being a full-time artist, kind of living like the stuff that I, dreamed about when I was in high school.
Doing it now, doing it.
Yeah, so, some days I wake up and really, it's like, am I really here? Is this really happening?
Also like about this piece, and then just in your work in general, are your depictions of Black men. I don't think that we see a lot of Black men in art, and when you have a Black man creating Black art, it's a beautiful thing.
I wasn't able to be a full-time artist until I was 59. I'm 60 now. And I just hope that I can do some things that for the next person, it won't take them that long.
Wow, that's really lovely.
I wish there were more opportunities so people won't have to wait until they're that old before they can do it full time.
Yeah.
So this piece, this is one of my favorite Jones from you right here, Harold. This one was this hung in the testimony exhibit. You got the Newport piece, and you got your collage in there, the Colt 45 brothers playing chess. Tell me about this piece. Just tell me about this vibe.
This one is entitled Friday Night Blues, and it's just reflecting on Friday nights after work when I was a teacher. You got the tie on, just getting together at tomfooleries or cigar box, maybe the Phoenix, or finding a place to chill, have a drink, or maybe even somebody's house.
What do you think the average viewer is missing when they look at a Harold Smith work?
I think they would miss the stories behind the work. I think a lot of people would see this and say, oh, it's a piece of bandana, but they may not understand, for a lot, especially, men of my age, when you think of the bandana with the particular pattern. Now, this one is black and white. There are of course, there's the reds, the blues, the purples, greens, all of those, but there's a certain amount of cultural memorial significance in that. Newports, you don't hear a lot about Newports, but I grew up in the 70s, tell us about the Newport.
That was a staple of the community.
And then you have Colt 45, and a lot of people may miss the fact that it's not just the beer, but how it was advertised with Billy D. Williams. And when we think of Billy D. Williams, a great actor that to many of us, he's like our Denzel.
Yeah.
And so there's the stories behind the work. And in this too, a lot of people do not associate older Black men with chess.
Yeah.
But if you've ever been to New York City in the summertime and go to the Partners Brothers, that's
pat your pockets down for some chess. Yeah.
That's what a lot of older guys do all day.
Yep.
And so I remember when my dad, before he passed, when he was still going to I think it was the Turner Recreation Center, there were some guys there that would play chess, older retired men every day. So I think what the person looking may not get is the stories behind the work.
Wow.
When I started the Man of Color series, it's about addressing the complexities of the Black experience for Black men, the things we have to deal with, not just externally, but also internally. And I try to do that with color by using basically color as a metaphor for experience. I think I said on my website, I think I phrased it as exploring the simultaneously complementary and contradictory internal and external narratives that Black men in America must navigate to not only survive, but definitely to prosper.
Of ArtMoves is to bring to light some of the interesting aspects about art appreciation and art collecting. So today we're here at Dolphin Frames with Archie Scott Gober, and we're going to talk about the importance and some of the nuances of framing, proper framing of those beautiful pieces of art that are acquired once they're acquired. Can you tell us about the importance of proper framing for artwork? What is the purpose, and why should anyone pay attention to that?
Well, for us, The safest place that you could keep your artwork would be in a dark, flat file somewhere. That would be the safest place for it.
And we never get to see it.
Right. You never get to see it. But if you want it out and you want to live with it, then you're going to want to frame it. And you're going to want to do it in the right way. We're lucky in Kansas City. We have several very good frame shops, us being one of them. To us, the frame is basically just a protection of the art. That's the ultimate goal. Now, how we get there there can be different routes to how we get there, but mostly we want to just do the best thing we can for the art.
I came here the very first time and I was like, I want to put this kind of frame on it, and I want it to be this color, I want it to have this matte, and you were like, no. You're like, no. And that was a lesson. You walked me into letting the art speak for itself.
In a general way, a frame is there to protect your valuable possession, something you're sentimental about, you may want to frame. You can frame just about anything. But really what we're trying to do is just present this in a attractive way, a tailored way.
Yeah.
The art is beautiful, it's geometric, it's very sharp.
Yeah.
Let's keep it sharp. And I think so, and we've looked at
So this is the standard frame. This is
the standard one we use on these Derek Adams, and it is the thinnest frame you can get and still at least like that.
Because it looks, it has an industrial feel, but it has a very, very modern minimal. It looks really nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful with these. There is a place for decorative framing of artwork. We get some of that. We don't get a lot of that. A lot of what we do is very contemporary, so we, again, stay simple, keep it clean. But there are times when, you need,
Oh yeah.
You say, okay, well, this is a portrait, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna need one of these, on that piece. I got a piece that I picked up from an artist out of Chicago, so I'm definitely gonna need some of this.
And you say, well, what's a great portrait frame? Yeah. This is an American portrait frame.
Yeah.
Now, it's a bit over scale, but boy, if you wanted to knock somebody out visually, if you frame both these portraits in a giant gold portrait frame, I mean, that's a whole other way to do it.
Oh yeah, that's flavor.
Yeah.
City Art Institute. Yes, we're at a very well-respected art school because we are visiting the studio of an art student. This is unusual for ArtMoves, and we're very excited about it. We are here with Kevin Hopkins, who has already gained local and national acclaim for his talent and his art. And he's even had a solo showing, and this is pretty unusual for a student. So welcome, Kevin Hopkins. We're thrilled to be able to speak with you today and see some of your artwork and learn a little bit more about you. Could you tell us what year you are in school?
Right now, I'm a senior in painting.
Senior, almost finished. That's great.
This close.
Yeah.
Well,
Tell us a little bit about how you became interested in painting. How did you choose that medium? And I know you have other things that you do artistically too. So what was so wonderful about painting that drew you to it?
It all started with learning how to draw, I guess. And so then I would just be looking for ways to fill in with color and stuff like that. I don't even remember when I started, as young as I can go back or whatever, I was drawing and just making these pencil outlines. But I think something that actually honed that honed me into this is something that I want to pursue. In high school, I got invited to attend South Carolina Governor's School for the arts and humanities.
How cool.
And it was this dormitory high school. They really put me in front of oil painting, higher quality acrylic. And since then I just knew that this is something that I could advance in.
Tell me about some of your influences. What I see some styles, but I want you, just share with us, artists that have, given you fuel.
in terms of like just like highlighting like the black body, Kendall Wiley, like just like the large scale stuff, like the stuff that's like really like looking like the beauty of skin, like the rendering of like
Yeah.
beautiful. At the same time, I'm also inspired by like local artists that I see every day, because I feel like there's maybe some like metaphor that can be found in like me trying to like reach into like the past, into something like familiar, and then like being able to like walk down the hall and say like hi to the people who are like really inspiring me, you know? And I think like other than that, like in general, just like anime as like a whole has like always been something that like inspires me, because it's like always been like a reference point for like my brothers and I. We would like play fight or whatever and like choose who gets to be like Goku or whatever, and I got to be Piccolo because I thought Piccolo was the blackest.
So we're in your studio. You were mentioning this piece earlier, so I got the green M&M. So tell us about this work here, because I saw an animation you did, and this piece is, new jump. So tell us about this one.
Yeah, so this one came out of like my like love for like drag and stuff like that. We were talking earlier about how like my family would like make fun of me for my head shape and call me like Peanut Head and stuff like that. So like this is still like riffing off like the same thing, the same Peanut M&M, but like I wanted to kind of like drag it up and make it into like a kind of like a performer. So I'm calling her Milligram. Milligram. Was really interested in like edible, like weed culture, like recently. Big fan of weed. Love of like stuff like RuPaul's Drag Race and stuff like that, like fashion. It kind of like made me want to like take that character that I was using as like an inside joke, my family like teasing me, and turning it into something kind of like runway-ish. Okay,
Tell us about this particular character. I know Millie is sassy, and what is it? What is it that what's Millie's message?
Millie's message is no one can quite be Millie. You know what I'm saying? I kind of like am looking for something like really dramatic, like really like kind of like Valley Girl, really like Kim Kardashian, because I feel like it's like an alter ego that like reminds me so much of like some of like the most important like women in my family. Kind of like in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like the Hillarys, it really reminds me of stuff like
very strong personality, always got something to say.
Like I want people to kind of like look at everyone that I'm painting as like a family or like their own. I want them to like resonate with like the experience. Like I have like a painting sophomore year of like my little brother and I like breaking a window. Our mom is like, who did that? And we just like looking at her like,
because we all got that about it. We all have that moment. That's big thing about it. What it? Hey.
Yeah. And I just feel like everybody kind of like identifies with like that experience.
Given that it's your senior year, what are your plans? What's coming up for you, both in the immediate future, and then where do you kind of see yourself a little further out as you're a more established artist? What do you think?
Plan on like applying for some like different like residencies to see if I can like maintain a studio in the city. And
Charlotte Street, what up?
Charlotte Street. So doing that, and then also trying to like slow down like a little bit and like kind of like
take mental inventory.
Yeah, like sit with my work, like really think about like how I want to both and how I want to like include like more people and kind of like this like same prompt and stuff like that. And also just like letting my work evolve in studio, because I think that like entering into this world so soon, sometimes I like let go of something and like see it later and I'm like, ooh, I would have like touched that up, or I would have done this and this and this. I'm really looking forward to that kind of like post-grad like growth or whatever, just like really like stewing on like the things that I've like
the pressure's off and you can just really focus in on who you are as an artist and where you want to go.